has more than 100 articles. I was tempted to do some word counting as Jose Maria was doing to see how many of those were on health inequalities, but I was, I guess, too stressed to do that. And I think that one of the biggest accomplishments of Eddie, apart from being an excellent football player, as I learned a few minutes ago, I didn't know that, is that he recently became a member of the Royal Academy of Arts and Sciences in the Netherlands. As a common friend says, he's now part of the great and the good of the country. And being a Belgian in the Netherlands, this is really a big challenge. So I'm really sure that Eddie's talk is gonna close very nicely what we've been seeing about the effects of the crisis on health and healthcare systems, and especially what is the role that other parts of the system may play in this relationship. But I think that the best I can do is give the floor to Eddie, so please, Eddie.
Thank you very much, Pilar. You will still need introduction, you see. You already did part of the introduction of my talk. That's not a surprise because you helped me preparing it. But let me start by saying and emphasizing once more, as all previous speakers have done, how pleased I am to be able to be back here, not only back at the Jornadas, so as Pilar said, I've been there before and enjoyed it always very much, but also back in Santander, where I think 15 years ago or so, Guillem Lopez organized a summer school here in the Palacio. And I also had a memorable night and fix something that we've got something ready by June 2013 that might interest an audience like you. So we did, in fact, Pilar and I put 4 students at work, each with a different data set, and one of them actually produced quite something interesting, we think, which I'm going to share with you. But I had some help from Tom Van Oorti and Pilar in putting this together. So that's also helpful because then the chair can help answer the questions that you have at the end. I think that's all in terms of introduction I need to say. Let me start by motivating this a bit. So what I'll try and do is first try and put this into a bit of perspective, and towards the end I'll give you some new results, findings that we put together, which I think, well, I hope will interest you and may also surprise you. So this needs no introduction. You know that health is unequally distributed by income in a lot of countries. Cross-country differences vary. We did studies on that before. I'll show you some numbers from 1996 just to remind you what the sort of baseline was then. And we looked at some trends prior to 2008, and I'll finish with looking at what's happened since, what seems to have happened since 2008. Now, what I won't be talking about today is the health effects of the crisis, because my remit was more health inequality, sort of inequality around that mean. I'm not going to try and make a case that we have established any effects, because I claim that is very difficult to do. Well, despite the fact that the last few days you've heard many presenters talk about effects or seemingly effects of the crisis, it's very difficult to do. I mean, most of those things were based on before and after comparisons. And what we really need is the counterfactual. What would have happened without the crisis, which is very hard to get at usually. There's a few studies that have tried that, or maybe there's only one that has really tried to put a control group together, which is a study by some people from the London School of Economics, published in the European Journal of Public Health, and they did a difference in difference analysis comparing Greece and Poland. So again, because Greece didn't have a control group within the country, they used Poland as the control, one of the few countries in the European Union that didn't experience the crisis, at least not in those years. And they find an increase in the reporting of poor health. But there's, well, you can argue they also tested for the common trends assumption prior to the crisis, prior to 2008, found that the common trends assumption was not rejected, and then found this effect. But I don't think, that's not what I'm going to do. I just want to alert you to the fact that there is some evidence on that. So what I will try and do is try to give you some flavor of what the economic crisis has done to inequalities in self-reported health, unfortunately. That's all we've got. But by income, and not only in Spain, but also in, if you don't mind me comparing Spain with Greece and Portugal, also in 2 other countries that are supposedly hit quite hard by the crisis. So, at this stage, well, no, I'll ask the question a bit later about what you expect the answer to this question to be. Maybe I can do it at this stage. Yeah, I'd like to make this a little quiz and then we can see who's got the prize. We've been handing out prizes before. So who thinks that in Spain health inequalities have risen as a result of the crisis? I mean, everybody has to raise a hand either at the first, the second, or the third question. Who thinks it has risen? Health inequality has risen. That's quite a large number of, well, not half, but close to. Who thinks nothing has changed?
Nothing has changed?
Yeah, no change. And that's another sizable number of hands. And who thinks it's improved? 1, 2, okay, 5 people. And then I could ask the same questions about Portugal and Greece. It's going to take me too long, but at the end of the presentation, you'll get the answer, at least from the analysis that we've done. Oh, here was the question. I forgot where I put it. So let me remind you, first of all, how Spain compared to a number of other countries. We published a paper in 2004, in which we used comparable European data, the so-called European Community Household Panel. Well, we used a mapping of self-assessed health into a health utility score that I'll be using later on again. We used the concentration index of the health utility index. I'm not going to explain it. I explained that 25 years ago in Las Palmas, but I'll do some explaining later on. And we decomposed it into contributing factors. And what we found was that there is pro-rich inequality in all European countries, significant, but most of all in the countries we looked at in Portugal, less so in Greece, and even less so in Spain. And I'll show you the results. And then we also looked at what seemed to be driving is a strong word, what seemed to be explaining in an associative way that inequality. And apart from income itself, it appeared to be especially early retirement status or other inactivity like disability, rather than anything else. And I'll illustrate that. So this is the score. Well, remember a bit the ranking. So Spain, oops, sorry. Go back. This is the pointer. Yeah, Spain's right here, Greece is there, and Portugal is right up there. And so these are confidence intervals. You see that Portugal at that time was the outlier, and Greece is actually Spain is in good company with the Netherlands and Germany, if I may say so, and Belgium. So not so bad at all. Not so bad at all. If you then decompose that and I'm not going to dwell on the method we used then, with a sort of regression-based decomposition technique, then you saw that this drives home the point that apart from income itself, which is the red bars here, more interesting is to look at the other bars, and then you see clearly Portugal is the outlier with large chunks of the inequality seemingly associated with variables that are listed here, and a lot of them have got to do with not being active, not being employed, being retired, being disabled, or otherwise inactive, apart from some demographic variables. And that's much less true if you see it in Spain. So retirement is this color here. It's not in here. It is in, sorry, I can't see the color. It's the brown color here. It is there in Portugal, quite substantially in Greece, but not in Spain, apparently. Okay, that's old hat. We know all that. Let's look at what happened then, because this was part of a panel, and it was a shame not to use one cross-section that was available at the time, the 1996 one. But it was a whole panel following households from 1994 to 2001. And later, we did another study where we examined the changes in what I will now be calling IRHI, which is the income-related health inequality, but I'll abbreviate that a bit. Again, measured by the concentration index, in relation to changes in the income level and in the income inequality. And then we tested some predictions of the theory, and I give you immediately what we found there. We found that the shape of the income-health relationship is crucial. and again, I'm not implying anything about this relationship other than that it's non-linear, no causality there. It's actually concave, and the income elasticity, that's quite important. The income elasticity of health, so the proportional change in health as a result of, well, you know what elasticity is, with rising income, that also rises. So despite the concavity of the relationship, the elasticity rises. And that's important because then you can make some predictions with that theory about what's going to happen to the income-related health inequalities. So, and because Finland was the only country in that period that experienced significant rise in income inequality, I think they just come out of their crisis then. It was only in Finland that we saw a significant rise in income-related health inequality. Much less so in Spain, Greece, and Portugal. Okay, let's quickly run through some of these graphs. This serves to highlight the differences in the evolution of average disposable income per adult equivalent in euros. So this is taken from this European Community Household Panel survey. It's supposed to be comparable numbers across countries, well, and adjusted for household composition. And then you see that the lowest incomes are here for Portugal and Greece. Spain is higher up, and all the countries, also the countries that were higher up in the ranking, all of those countries experienced more or less growth in that period, not always to the same degree, but certainly these three countries experienced growth, except at the very end for, is it Greece? Greece, yeah. That's average levels of income. Trends in income inequality, also not unimportant for income-related health inequality. Here we saw a less clear picture. Now we have the three countries that were at the bottom in the previous chart at the top here. So the Portugal and Greece are up there. Spain is the green one here. And then you've got all the other countries. And what's notable is that only Finland, which the survey only started in 1996, has sort of consistent growth of income inequality over that period. In none of the other countries there was a significant growth, and only then we had a clear prediction of the theory. So in other countries, if there was a change, then it was mostly a reduction, not an increase. Yeah? So that's inequality, and then this gives us the evolution of income-related health inequalities. Now, we have put this the index value at the value in the year 1996, so this is 100, so this doesn't reflect the differences in income-related health inequality between the countries, but it just serves to show the point that only in Finland we predicted a very sharp increase of income-related health inequality, which was borne out by the data, and if there was a change after 1996, then in many countries it will also arise. Note that, say, Spain sort of went up to 2001 to, well, almost the second highest, so very, very different from where it was in 1996. But no, again, sorry, we can't compare these. These are index values, so they don't reflect the relative differences in inequality. Okay, so that was pre-1996. Now, what I want to do is briefly step out of Europe, and because we did a paper on China where we changed the decomposition method again, and we think it's now more revealing of really what's going on. And I first show you what we did with that for China, and then I'll use the same thing for Spain, Greece, and Portugal. So this is a new paper. It's available on the tinbergen.nl website if you want to look at it. It's not published yet. And it shows that, well, what it does basically in a nutshell is it simplifies the earlier decomposition that we used. And we switched to the Ereger's absolute concentration index, which has got advantages, as many of you are aware, over the standard concentration index for measuring inequality in a bounded measure like health. We generalize it, and we make much more visible the role of income mobility, and this will prove very important. How people move in the income rank, in the income distribution as time progresses. And then we use it to illustrate what happened in China in a spectacular period. We all know what happened in the last few decades in China. If there's one country that experienced rapid growth at a massive scale, it was China. So if there was one country